If you hear whistling after midnight, hide immediately. They said the whistling started after the Wilkins boy vanished. Just a faint sound in the woods, soft, slow, always a little too close. But when the townsfolk began disappearing one by one, the warning became clear. If you hear whistling after midnight, hide. Not run, not scream. Just hide and pray it passes you by. It started with a message scribbled onto a bathroom mirror in what looked like dry blood. If you hear whistling after midnight, hide immediately. I thought it was a prank, a scare tactic, something from one of those YouTube prank channels or a bored high school kid messing around with urban legends. That was before the silence started. My name's Daniel Ward. I'm 24, and I recently moved to the small town of Everdell in Oregon, a place so remote you'd think the world forgot it existed. I came here to settle my late aunt's affairs. She passed suddenly, no known cause, according to the coroner, but left me her old house, nestled at the edge of the Everdell forest. At first, the town seemed charming. Wood-framed houses, winding dirt roads, an old diner that served the best blueberry pie I've ever had. But the people were strange. Cold stares, half answers, and always that unease in their eyes when I mentioned the woods. On my third night, I was jolted awake by a sound. Whistling. It was distant, like someone softly blowing a tune from deep within the trees. A slow, dragging melody. Off-key. Hollow. Like it didn't come from lungs, but from something pretending to breathe. I sat frozen in bed, trying to rationalize it. Maybe a wind chime caught in the breeze. Maybe someone walking their dog with a weird ringtone. But it was past midnight, and the woods out back were pitch black. The next morning, I visited the local diner, half expecting to joke about it with someone. That's when I met Eli, an old man hunched over his coffee like it was the only thing keeping him alive. "You heard it, didn't you?" he asked without looking up. I paused. "Heard what?" He chuckled dryly. "The whistling. Same tune every time. Like it's calling someone." I told him it was probably just wind. He shook his head slowly. "Ain't the wind. Ain't human either. You hear it past midnight. You hide. Simple as that. And never, ever whistle it back." "Why not?" "Because that's how it knows you heard it." There was something in his eyes. Something dead set and certain, like he'd seen what happened to those who didn't listen. I left the diner feeling colder than when I came in. That night, the whistling came again. This time, it was closer. I stood at the window, peeking through the blinds. A low fog blanketed the trees, and the moon was veiled behind thick clouds. The tune slithered through the mist, slow and broken. I couldn't tell if it was coming from the forest or my own backyard. My breath caught in my throat. I remembered Eli's warning. "Hide." I turned off all the lights and crept into the hallway closet, pulling the door shut behind me. The air was suffocating. Every heartbeat echoed like a drum in my ears. And then, footsteps. Soft, dragging ones across the porch. Something scraped along the siding. A wet sound like nails across old wood. I squeezed my eyes shut. The whistling grew louder. The same tune. Off-key. Relentless. And then it stopped. The silence was worse. My ears strained for any sound, anything at all. Minutes passed. Maybe hours. I didn't know. Finally, I crawled out, trembling, my legs numb. Everything was as I'd left it, except the back door was wide open. I installed locks on every window the next day, reinforced the doors, bought motion lights, pepper spray, even considered a shotgun. But none of that explains what I found under the welcome mat that evening. A small piece of paper, yellowed and torn. On it, written in shaky, childlike handwriting. "You heard it. It knows you now." I looked around, heart hammering. The streets were empty. The fog had rolled in again. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat with a kitchen knife and flashlight, watching the clock tick past midnight. 12:11 a.m. Whistling. Not from the woods this time. From the attic. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. The tune floated down from above. Faint, fractured, but unmistakably the same. Slow. Off-key. Like something that had no lips was trying to mimic a song it didn't understand. I gathered my nerve, reached for the attic ladder, and climbed silently. The air grew cold, unnaturally cold. My flashlight flickered. The moment I pushed open the attic door, the whistling stopped. Dust floated in the beam of my flashlight. Boxes, old furniture, spiderwebs. Nothing unusual, until I saw it. At the far corner, something scratched into the wooden floorboards with what looked like broken fingernails. Daniel, and beneath it, Tune Ian. My flashlight died. Total darkness. Then a whisper, so close it brushed my ear. Whistle it back. I screamed, stumbling down the ladder, slamming the attic shut. I shoved a chair against it and backed away, knife shaking in my grip. That was the first night I understood. This wasn't a spirit. It wasn't a person. It was something that watched, something that waited. And now it had my name. I left town the next morning, drove 3 hours to Portland, booked a hotel, left my phone behind. I didn't tell anyone where I went. I needed time to think, to breathe. But that night, at exactly 12:09 a.m., a knock at my hotel door. I didn't answer. Then came a sound, whistling, right outside the door, and a piece of paper slipped beneath it. You can't hide forever. The note beneath my hotel room door stayed there for hours before I had the courage to pick it up. You can't hide forever. The letters were uneven, as if scratched by someone who had never held a pen before. And at the very bottom of the page was a crude drawing of what looked like a face, but it had no mouth. I slept with the lights on, knife under the pillow, chair jammed under the doorknob. Didn't matter. At exactly 12:09 a.m., the whistling came back. It started faint, just a breeze under the window. But the longer I lay there, the louder it became. It wasn't a song anymore. It was searching, like something trying to remember the tune and failing over and over again. Whistle, pause, whistle, scratch, whistle. I turned on the TV. I blasted music on my phone. I stuffed cotton in my ears. But somehow, I could still hear it. That night, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. By dawn, I knew I had to do something I'd been avoiding since the first night in Everdell. I had to go back. The road into town was quiet, too quiet. No cars, no beds. Even the wind felt absent, like the world itself was holding its breath. As I passed the diner, I saw a sign hanging from the front window. Closed for good. God help us all. Inside, chairs were overturned, plates still on the tables, like people had just left. I drove straight to Eli's trailer at the edge of town. He was the only one who had answers, even if he was half crazy. When he opened the door, his face went pale. "You came back," he muttered. "You shouldn't have come back." "It followed me," I said, stepping inside. "Even when I left town. It knows my name, Eli." He motioned for me to sit, then closed every curtain in the house. The air smelled of tobacco and mold, and his living room was cluttered with old radios, melted candles, and stacks of yellowing notebooks. "I tried to stop it once," he said. "Long time ago, when I was your age. Thought I could outsmart it. Trick it." "Outsmart what, Eli? What the hell is it?" He didn't speak for a moment, just stared into the flickering candle flame. "We call it the Hollow One. Nobody knows what it is, only what it does. It mimics, watches, learns. Whistling's how it marks you. Once you hear the tune, it's like it plants a seed in your head. No matter where you go, it finds you. But if you whistle back, you're giving it permission." I whispered. "Ili noded," like opening a door. That's why we say to hide. It can't take what it can't see. I reached into my pocket and unfolded the note from the hotel. Showed him the drawing. "That's it," he said, his voice trembling. "That's its face, or what people think is its face. But it's never the same twice." He leaned closer. "Did it speak to you yet?" I hesitated. "Yes." "In the attic." It whispered in my ear. Eli stood up and began rummaging through a stack of old books and photos, eventually pulling out a faded cassette tape. This is from 1978. Last time someone in town recorded the whistling. Don't play it unless you want it to come quicker. I stared at it. The label read, "Do not listen after midnight." "I need to end this, Eli," I said, pocketing the tape. "Whatever it is, it's not going to stop until I'm either dead or worse." He grabbed my wrist. "Then you need to go to Mirror Creek. That's where it first came through. That's where it started. But be careful. The trees there don't echo right." Mirror Creek was a dried-out gully at the edge of Everdell Forest, about a 45-minute hike in, past the overgrown trails. By the time I reached it, the sun had begun to set, painting the sky in streaks of orange and red. The creek bed was littered with bones, small animals. Maybe, but each one was arranged in a circle. At the center sat a rusted radio tower, its metal bent like something had crushed it from above. I took out the tape and slid it into the old Walkman I'd brought from Eli's. I pressed play. The sound was warped, degraded. But then, the tune. That same awful, off-key whistle. Louder this time. More distorted. I listened for less than 10 seconds before I yanked the headphones off. And that's when I heard it. Not from the tape. From the trees behind me. The same tune, this time perfectly clear. I turned slowly, every hair on my body standing up. There at the edge of the woods was a shape. Tall. Slender. Not moving. No face. Just a void where the mouth should be. And from that empty space, the whistling came. I stepped back. It stepped forward. No footsteps. Just presence. It didn't rush. It didn't lunge. It just kept whistling and moving. I ran. Branches tore my face. My lungs burned. But I didn't stop. I didn't dare look back. I made it to the old ranger station by the North Trail, a crumbling building that hadn't been used in years. I slammed the door shut and wedged a desk in front of it. The whistling stopped. Silence. Then came a knocking. Not on the door. On the walls. All around me. Like it was already inside. I dropped to the floor, heart pounding. The knocking grew louder. And then I saw them. Scratches on the far wall, forming letters. "Why won't you sing back?" I screamed, backing into a corner. And then the whistling changed. It sounded like me. My tone. My breath. My voice. It was mimicking me now, trying to make me believe I was the one whistling. That was its game. Not to kill. Not yet. But to wear you down. To break you. To make you forget who you are. And once you're hollow, it takes your place. I passed out sometime before sunrise. When I woke up, the air was still. The marks on the wall were gone. But in my hand was another note. One more night. When I awoke on the cold, warped floor of the ranger station, the note was still clutched in my fist. One more night. The paper felt damp, as though it had been pulled from someone's mouth. My head throbbed. My ears were still ringing from the echo of that cursed tune. But worse than the pain was the silence. Not peaceful silence. The wrong kind. Like the world had muted itself. No wind. No birds. Not even the hum of insects. Just a thick, static air pressing against my skin like invisible fingers. I staggered outside. The sun had risen, but it offered no warmth. The forest looked washed out, colorless. The trees no longer swayed. They leaned inward as if listening or waiting. I needed to find Eli again. But when I returned to his trailer, the door was wide open. Inside, the place had been torn apart. Furniture smashed. Candles melted into bone-white puddles. And on the far wall, in bold, jagged strokes. He whistled back. There was blood on the carpet. And beside it, his tape recorder. Still running. I pressed play with a shaking hand. It began with static, then Eli's voice. It's inside the walls now, no, the mirror. It watches from the mirror. Don't look in, don't. Static. Coughing. I thought I could help him. I shouldn't have helped him. It's been waiting all this time for someone young. Someone it can wear like skin. Long silence. Then, if anyone finds this, tell Daniel. He only has one more night. After that, there's no hiding. The tape ended. I stood there frozen, heart a wild drumbeat in my chest. I wasn't just being hunted. I was being tested. And if Eli was right, tonight would be the final trial. But first, I had to know what it did to the others, the ones who disappeared. At the Everdell Library, one of the only places not abandoned, I found a dusty binder labeled Missing Persons Everdell Township. There were dozens of names going back decades. Each file eerily similar. No signs of struggle. No forced entry. No weaknesses. Just gone. Vanished. Always after midnight. Always near the woods. And each report had one thing in common. The sound of whistling heard the night before. Some of the earliest cases dated back to the 1920s. One in particular caught my eye. Thomas Greaves, 12 years old, reported missing in 1923 after claiming to hear singing trees. His case had a peculiar note attached. Witness states, boy attempted to mimic sound. Family says he was obsessed with whistling before vanishing. Mother found message scratched into underside of bed frame. It's lonely. I'm going to sing with it. My stomach churned. It wasn't just stalking victims. It was luring them. Slowly. Whispering to them. Making them feel seen, heard, even loved. Like a siren in the trees. That's how it gets in. On the walk back to the house, I began hearing something strange. Not whistling this time, but crying. A child's sobs, soft and distant. I followed the sound through the trees until I reached the cemetery at the edge of town. Overgrown and forgotten, the gravestones were tilted like crooked teeth. The crying came from behind a large weeping willow near the back. And then I saw her, a girl, no more than 7 or 8, kneeling in front of an old grave. Her hair was tangled, skin pale and cracked like porcelain. Are you okay? I called out. She didn't look up. I stepped closer. Where are your parents? Still no response. Then she began to whistle. A slow, broken tune. The same one. I stumbled back, hard in my throat. She stopped, turned to face me. Her eyes were empty, black, and when she opened her mouth, she had no tongue. Suddenly, the trees groaned and shifted. The sky dimmed. Behind me, a gust of cold air brushed past. I turned, too late. The girl was gone, and in her place, scratched into the gravestone. Sing with U.S. I ran all the way home. By now, the fog had rolled in again, thick and suffocating. The moment I stepped inside, I locked every door, closed every curtain. I lit candles in every room. I wasn't just hiding anymore. I was preparing, because tonight, the whistling would come for real. And this time, I would face it. At 11:57 p.m., the lights went out. One by one, each bulb fizzled and died. The house fell into blackness. The only light came from the flickering candles and the blood-red glow of the old alarm clock on my nightstand. 11:59. I sat in the hallway, facing the front door, knife in hand. Midnight. The first whistle was faint, almost delicate. Then another. Closer. Then the knocking. Not frantic, just 3 slow, deliberate knocks. I didn't answer. Another knock. From a back door now. Then the sound of footsteps inside the walls. Crawling. Above me. Beneath me. The whistling grew louder, now coming from every direction. And then, the mirror, it began to ripple, like the glass itself was melting. And from within it, a figure emerged. Tall, pale, no mouth, just a void, its fingers long and wrong, twisting like broken branches. It didn't speak. It mimicked my voice, my laugh, my screams from earlier nights. Then it held out its hand and began to whistle my mother's lullaby. That's when I broke. I dropped the knife, and it smiled with no mouth. But I didn't whistle back. Not yet. Instead, I played the tape Eli gave me. Loud. The creature hissed. Its shape distorted. The walls trembled. It hated the recording. Not because of the tune, but because it had been recorded. Captured. Turned into data. Contained. I saw my chance. I threw open the window and whistled back, but not the same tune. I changed the notes. Scrambled them. Rewrote the song in real time. The hollow one stumbled. It twitched violently. Its shape convulsed, like it couldn't understand what I was doing. It wasn't just mimicry anymore, it was confusion. I'd broken its pattern, and that was its weakness. With one final cry, it lunged, but passed through me like smoke. Then it was gone. The whistling stopped, and for the first time in days, I couldn't hear anything. Just silence. Real silence. But on the floor, where it vanished, lay a new note. This one written in my own handwriting. That was only its voice. Now you'll meet its body. The note sat in my trembling hand like a curse carved into paper. That was only its voice. Now you'll meet its body. It wasn't written in ink. It was burned into the page. Each letter singed deep into the fibers, smoldering faintly as if the heat still lingered. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of fear, though it gnawed at every part of me, but because there was no sound at all. No creaking floors. No distant wind. Not even the pounding of my own heartbeat. The hollow one hadn't just retreated. It had taken something with it. Sound. The next morning, I tested everything. My voice. Gone. Slammed a door. Nothing. Even when I smashed a plate on the floor, dead silence. The world wasn't just muted. It was listening. And I felt it. Watching from the cracks in the wall. Pressing its cold breath through the silence like a predator scenting wounded prey. That's when I saw the writing again on my bathroom mirror. Not with marker. Not with steam. But etched, deep, grooved scratches across the glass. Go to the cold house, where it first touched the world. I didn't know what cold house meant, but there was one place in Everdell that fit the name. The abandoned orphanage north of town. Whisper Pines. Locals said it had shut down after a fire in the late 60s. No survivors. No cause ever found. Some said the fire started in the basement. Others claimed it was the children themselves, driven to madness by things they heard in the walls. I knew I had to go. Whatever this thing was, whatever body it was preparing to reveal, it started there. The road to Whisper Pines was strangled by nature. Thick, overgrown brush that clawed at the sides of my car. The building itself loomed like a corpse in the fog, for stories of rotting wood and shattered windows. Crows sat motionless on the rooftop, not cawing, just watching. The gate was open. It had been waiting for me. Inside, the air was so cold it hurt to breathe. Frost covered the interior walls despite the summer heat outside. Silence smothered everything, but not in a peaceful way. It felt like the building itself was holding its breath. I explored the rooms, each one worse than the last. Torn dolls, cribs full of ash, old wheelchairs rusted to the floor, and everywhere that same tune, written on the walls in charcoal, over and over. Do not hum, do not sing, do not whistle anything. In one of the second-floor rooms, I found a broken tape recorder beside a charred teddy bear. I pressed play. Static. Then a whisper. It wore my sister's face, but her eyes were gone. She smiled and started whistling. Then a pause. A A sob. The silence isn't empty, it's alive. I reached the basement stairs. A cold draft oozed from the darkness below. As I descended, my flashlight flickered, and I began to hear something. A heartbeat, but not mine. Something else's. A deep, wet thudding from behind the basement walls. The floor was slick with mold and decay. Chains hung from the ceiling. Scratches lined the cement like claw marks. In the far corner was a mirror, cracked, warped, and pulsing. Like skin. When I stepped closer, it breathed. And then I saw it. Not in the mirror, but in its reflection behind me. The body. No longer smoke or shadow. This was meat. 8 feet tall, bloated with bone-white flesh. Its face was split vertically down the center, revealing rows of black, twitching teeth inside. Its eyes were mismatched, one mine, one someone else's. Its voice, when it spoke, came not from its mouth, but from the air around it. You heard me. You ran. You lived. But now, you remember me. So I will finish the song. It stepped forward. The basement shook. The frost spread across the walls like rot. Pipes groaned. Lights died. I turned to run, but suddenly I couldn't move. The air was thick like invisible hands gripping my limbs. Then came the whistling, but not from it. From me. Against my will, my lips parted. I began to whistle its tune. No matter how hard I tried to stop, my breath was no longer my own. It was filling me with itself. Possession. That's what it wanted all along. But just before I blacked out, something broke the rhythm. A sound. Tiny. Cracked. But real. A bell. Somewhere deeper in the basement. Like an old church bell, buried beneath layers of dust and time. The hollow one paused. It turned toward the sound, hissing. It hated that bell. So I crawled toward it, hand over hand, until I saw a hole in the wall behind a furnace. Inside, a sealed crawl space with a rusted rope hanging from the ceiling. At the end of the rope, a child-sized bell. I yanked it. The sound was weak at first, like it hadn't been heard in years. But it cut through the silence like a scream underwater. The hollow one screeched, staggering back. Its body writhed, as if the bell's sound tore holes through its skin. I kept ringing. Again and again. Each chime struck it like a hammer, until it burst apart in a storm of black mist, shrieking like a chorus of stolen voices. Then, silence again. But this time, peaceful. Real. I collapsed, bleeding and coughing on the floor. Hours passed. When I finally stumbled out of Whisper Pines, the fog had lifted. The sky had color again. I could hear the wind and my own breath. But the ground beneath me trembled and etched into the orphanage's front door in fresh black ash. You made it hum. You made it feel. Now it knows you. That night, back at home, I sat in the silence, waiting. No whistling, no notes, just quiet. But when I checked the mirror in my hallway, my reflection was smiling. I wasn't. If you ever hear whistling after midnight, don't whistle back. Don't speak. And whatever you do, don't look into your own reflection, because what's looking back might not be you anymore. Tonight, I finish what was started long before I was born. Tonight, I meet the hollow one where it was born, and only one of us will leave whole. 3 days have passed since I rang the bell in Whisper Pines, since I tore the body of the hollow one into pieces of black mist and shredded screams. But it wasn't dead, not even close. It had only been distracted. The silence returned on the third night, thicker than ever. No sound. I approached slowly, and, as I did, the whistling returned, dozens of voices overlapping. Children, elders, my mother, even my own voice. Each voice sang a different line of the same unholy lullaby. I peered into the well. Darkness. No bottom, but not empty. I could feel it looking back. Then, I heard it rise. A gurgle of flesh and static. a breath so massive it pulled at the trees. And then, emerging from the well, the true form of the Hollow One, no longer human-shaped. This was ancient, titanic, a mass of mouths and fingers and mirrors. Its body was made of windows and doorways and old record players. Faces twisted across its skin like melted masks. And at its heart, a giant gramophone horn, fused into its chest, playing the cursed tune. I couldn't run. I didn't want it anymore. It was time to end it. I pulled out the last gift Eli left me, the recorder. But not the one with the creature's tune. This one had my tune. The scrambled version I'd whistled. The one that broke its rhythm. I played it. The Hollow One staggered. Its song sputtered, but only for a moment. Then it roared, not with sound, but with absence. A vortex of silence, so powerful it shattered the trees around the clearing. Birds dropped mid-flight. My eardrums burst, yet I felt nothing. No pain, no fear, only calm. It stepped forward, ready to consume me. So I did the unthinkable. I whistled again. Not its song, not mine, but a new one, made up as I went. Raw, broken, human. I poured everything into it. Every memory, every fear, every scream I never let out. And a Hollow One screamed. Its skin split. Its voices shrieked out in fury and confusion. It didn't understand the chaos. That was its weakness. It needed patterns. Predictability. Songs that looped and repeated. And I gave it pure, living noise. Then, with one last breath, I hurled the recorder into the well. Still playing. The song echoed downward. The Hollow One reached for it. Desperate, twitching, then fell inward after it. Dragged back into its cradle. Its tomb. And the moment it disappeared, sound returned to the world. The trees rustled. The wind howled. Birds sang again. I collapsed on the forest floor. Bleeding. Smiling. Alive. They found me the next morning. The authorities didn't believe a word, of course. Just another mentally unwell man who wandered into the woods and collapsed from exposure. But that's fine, because I know what I did. I ended the song. I buried the Hollow One in the silence it craved. Or so I thought. Until last night, I was sitting in my room, watching the rain through the window, when I heard it again. Not outside, not from the mirror, inside me. A single note, a whistle, my whistle, because the Hollow One doesn't just haunt the woods. It lives in broken songs, in memories, in people who try to change the tune, and now it sings through me, because I gave a new voice, mine.